Hello, beautiful people watching this. I am in Reno and I'm doing this video for a few reasons. One, I'm about to graduate from a program that I started in 2017. So that's 5 years. January 2017, I did my first Aston-Patterning class, and here we are, August. What year are we in? 2022. Um, so I'm doing this video, a few reasons, and yeah, I'm outside. Um, One is to commemorate this graduation, and it's been a while since I've done a video, and partially it's because I've been doing all the Aston work and these case studies and things. Um, which I'm excited to share about. And two, this is actually a homework assignment. So hello to um, Judith and Brian and Allison who will be watching this as well. So this video is for that and to share with you all what I've been up to with the Aston patterning work and why I chose to study it, and dedicate so much to it, and yeah, just what is it? Um, why it's really special to me. I've certainly delved into a lot of things, and to really dive deep with this one, it's special, and so I want to share more about that in this. So I'm going to share what is Aston patterning, and then a bit about the history. Judith Aston, who developed this work in 1977, and I don't have my microphone with me on this trip, so hopefully you can hear me okay. I'll try to project, and the influences that she had that you can see in the work, and then I also want to share a little story, case study of working with my mom with this work, and when she broke her thumb, and some of the ways that I worked with her, and how that was different from a typical model, or really any any other kind of model or paradigm than this one, and how that really made a difference for her. So I'm going to share that story, and then a little bit of some of the core concepts of this work, and why is that important? The core concepts. Well, knowing these, it's pretty much a map for how we get into trouble with our bodies and how we can get out of trouble. So it's really helpful to know. It kind of reminds me of, I don't remember who it was, some saying of, I want to know where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there, right? So, um, yeah, it's just really helpful concepts to know, um, so you can, yeah, keep yourself in a good spot. So I'll start just with a little bit of an overview of what is Aston patterning. So the way that I see it, it's an integrative paradigm. So it's a way of seeing and a way of working with the body, and working with our unique bodies. And so what part of what makes it really different is that in a typical other, pretty much every other kind of model, there's some level of abstraction. So I might say something like, okay, yeah, this person has this thing, right? Like I have scoliosis. And then I'm kind of lumped in the category with everyone else who's got that. And, but when you look at me and you look at someone else who also shares that same label and somebody else, we're different. We move differently. We have different shapes to us. Somebody they'd have a very different curve than me. So what they need is different than what I need. And we're also dynamic. We're changing all the time. So what we need at a specific moment in time, it changes. So part of what's really unique about this work is that we, we look at a person at a point in time, right there, right now, and every single aspect we assess. So we look at the dimension, we look at alignment, we look at all these tracks, and we listen for what's going on. What are they feeling? They're feeling pain or fatigue, and what do they want? What's the goal? They want to be able to do this activity or that. All these things come together, and then we feel, we palpate. Where am I sensing particular kinds of tension, or where is there less, right? Maybe not as much tone and less support. And so we're looking at all these things, sensing, feeling, intuiting, all of this to gather together information about this unique person. It's just, and to receive a session is really, it's really a gift, because it just, you're so seen and listened to and felt, literally in all the ways. And there's not an abstraction that's put on top of you. It's like, what is actually here? What's the shape that's being created? So that's, a part of what's been so, that's why it's so effective. Um, yeah, and it's why it's been so meaningful to me. Made a big difference. Even the fact, I'm sitting as I'm doing this video, when I started this training, I wasn't barely able to sit. It was very difficult. So, yeah, it's helped me a lot. So, what else do I want to say that? Okay, the other piece about the integrative paradigm. So, what's involved in it? So, that also means it has a component of body work. So, it's hands-on. But again, the body work matches. Everything is matching. So, one of the core, like, we calling them, I guess, primary essentials in this work is this idea of matching what is. And so rather than there being a specific stroke, like I learned in massage school, this is this stroke, and you do that on everybody in the same place, right? Which is fine. It's relaxing. It has positive benefits. But in terms of the specific change work for that person, adapting to their pattern and their shape, and what's going to support them to unravel that so they can be in their best body. With the body work, there is no prescribed protocol in this work. The move is dictated by the shape of the tissue, the grain of it, the tempo that the tissue moves in. So all of that is accounted for in the body work. So that's the body work piece. So Aston-Patterning is body work. It's also movement education, right? How did these holding patterns come to be in the first place? There could be some structural pieces, could be an accident, some type of injury, but also it could be the way that we're using our bodies. So that's what we look at with the movement education, and so that folks can feel empowered to be able to make adjustments that make things easier for them. All of that. So that's the movement education piece. Looking at the fundamental building blocks of movement, and you can apply it all the way to something as complex as any kind of sport. So there's that piece of body work, movement education. There's also fitness. So there's a stretching form, toning forms, and loosening, which loosening is also often not included in other kinds of forms I've found. So in this work, we're looking at decompressing the joints and the tissue before we, so that we are most expansive. Same thing with the body work. It's decompressive. It's allowing ourselves to expand, to reclaim, to take up space, really. be in our dimensional integrity, and it connects to so much. You can tell by the language. So we decompress. We're in our best place before we bring in more tone, and so we're not, kind of getting shorter or smaller in order to feel supported. We're expanded, and then we're bringing in the tone. So that's the fitness piece, and then ergonomics. So, we are in relationship with our environment in a world, and so that's another piece of the work. Is Judith is also an inventor, and has developed all of these different cushions that are very specific with the math. And I'll talk about that later. Um, and so, because sitting in a car driving, on the airplane, or any type of thing that we're doing, there is, or using shoes, right? So all of that contributes to how these different forces of the earth are impacting us and our shape and all of that. So, one more example I wanted to give about the uniqueness is also think about an injury. Somebody, let's say they have a fall, and if they, if typically it's like I had a fall. Okay, I had a fall and my back hurts or something. All right, and that's kind of written down. But it's like that person, a person might have slipped backwards. That person might have fallen forwards. It could be any shape, any trajectory that person had. They're using the same word, a fall, or whatever the accident was, something. We want to look at actually what is the pathway through which those forces impacted the body. And so that's really what our work does, is we get so specific to the way the forces are shaping the tissues, shaping our movements, all of that. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I'm really enthusiastic about it. So, all right, that is somebody here with a motorcycle. All right, that is a bit of what's Aston-Patterning. So we talked about body work, movement education, fitness ergonomics, and then I'll share, and then just briefly, I'll share a story about how I worked with my mom with this, and then share a little bit more about the history, how Judith developed this work. So my mom, so my mom had broken her thumb, and it was, oops, can you see it? There we go. So a little bit through here, mostly this bone right there, left thumb, and I happened to be doing Aston case studies at the time, so it was perfect. So we started working together. Just pause when the motorcycle is there. So we started working together at that time, and again, typically you would find it's just like, okay, let's just isolate it, focused on the thumb. But with this work, we want her to be in her most available neutral. We want her to be in her most available neutral, which is also a concept of this work. Neutral for now, most available neutral for now. When we're working with the more specific areas, and so instead of just kind of shaping around that injury, it's like, can she be as neutral as possible? And we work on that as well. So I started doing sessions with her around that time, and we didn't even get towards her thumb for a while. And yet what we were doing was helpful for her healing process. And what is especially different about this work is where we ended up was really interesting, was finding some of the root. So I asked my mom, I said, okay, so tell me more about this fall, when the break happened. And so it was, moving things around. There was a table that was upside down. It was during a moving process. And okay, she says, I got my left foot caught under the table, and that's when I got off balance, and I threw my left hand down, and that's when my thumb broke. Okay, all right, interesting. And then she starts to notice, yeah, actually, every injury I've had has been on the left side. Very interesting indeed. So we get further and further, and I start to notice in future sessions that some of the most biggest area of tension, the most tension in her body was in her lower left leg or on the outside, toward the outside. Really strong tension there. And I asked her more about some of the other injuries. Oh yeah, a few years ago, I injured my left shoulder. How did that fall happen, Mom? Well, it's getting darker here. That fall happened. I was walking in the woods and I caught my left foot under a tree root and lost my balance, threw out my left arm, and I broke my left shoulder. Familiar story. So we get curious about that, and eventually in a future session, one that we did in class, what we ended up doing was working on that lower left leg area, and then the memory came back again. Oh, well, yeah, I broke my left leg skiing, but when I was 19, long time ago, didn't think that was relevant. So we bring the layer up, and it's like, okay, we could look at just, this bone, right? But we start asking the question of what is actually going on here? What's the pattern? There's a bigger pattern shaping this. And eventually, what we started to find was, right, this pattern of falling from the left foot getting caught. And this question started to come up of like, well, could we do things that would prevent the fall in the first place, right? That would actually allow that left foot, and when walking in gait, for the whole body, for the weight to come through that left side and be more fully supported, because those tissues aren't so tight shaped around the bone. I don't know if you hear that or not, but I think there's a kid around here having a tantrum or something. Okay, so that was pretty significant, right? We want to work with what is even creating the fall. So that's that. And then I will share some of the influences. So, oh, there's so much to share here. So Judith had a lot of her own accidents, unfortunately, but using her resourcefulness and learning, she developed a lot of this work from need, from necessity, of rehabbing these accidents. And one of those accidents was prior to her meeting Ida Rolf. And so she started studying. She was asked to develop movement programs for Ida Rolf, and then she started studying, trained with her, and started teaching, and then started kind of going in her own direction, which was very different than the Rolf paradigm, which had a particular set of things to do for everyone. I'm noticing this is getting darker, so hopefully you can still see me and hear me. Okay. What else I want to say about that? I remember, okay, yes, big influences for Judith were she was a dancer. So dance, so movement, dance is a big part of it. She was also really great at math. So dance, math, and then creativity, creative problem solving specifically. How could we do this better? How could we do it faster? Um, with more ease. These kinds of questions. So dance and math and creative problem solving, all big parts of influences in Judith's life, and then it comes through in the work. It really has this integrative um, feeling of there's this analytical, break it down, there's the math, and then there's this intuitive gestalt sense, but with this super specificity to it. So that's what I like about it so much. Yeah, this one brighter over here, a little bit. Okay, so last piece I'm going to share is 4 core concepts. So 4 core concepts, one of them in this work. So one of them is neutral. A lot of times we run into trouble in our bodies or psyches, anything, when we get pretty far off of what is neutral, most neutral for us. So neutral. Second one is cooperative movement. Another thing, we run into difficulty if some part of us is isolated off of the rest of us, when that part is not participating, integrated, receiving communication, part of the whole, right? That's with a person's body, that's with a community, right? Anything, any part that is severed from the whole and not receiving that communication and cooperation. So cooperative movement, another concept. Third major concept is base of support. Another way that we run into difficulty is when we do things and we don't have adequate support underneath us, behind us, around us. So base of support, being supported in your own body. And then the last one is of the 4. There are more, but these are the 4 core ones. Gravity and GRF, the forces. What is that? So you know gravity, the force of gravity. So we're always contending with gravity, but also available to us is this opposing force, which is ground reaction force. That's the name for it. It's why we're not a puddle on the floor. It's why buildings are able to stand up. So ground reaction force. So again, we also run into difficulty when these get really out of balance. We're either like stuck up, or we're falling into gravity. We don't have a balance there, or a sense that we can negotiate between these forces, or a sense that we could navigate them or have agency around them. So this is also our, this is our pathway to freedom, feeling a lot more agency. So that is my introduction to. Can't quite, you can still see the light there. That is my introduction to what is Aston-Patterning. It's my commemoration of graduation very soon. It's my celebration with these kind of twinkle lights going on here, Edison lights, as the sun is setting, and and it is my thank you and my gratitude to Judith Aston Linderoth, who developed this, Brian Linderoth and Allison Sagewind, who are, have been my 3 teachers in this work, and it's just been so cool and such a great journey, and yeah, I'm just excited to continue the discovery and share this work with more folks. So yeah, until next time.